Today I'd like to talk about the kindness of Donald Trump. So last week, many of us gathered here in this room to watch the presidential debate. And I think for myself, it's the first time in my life that I ever watched a presidential debate. I felt it was important to try to understand the candidates, what they had to say and how they said it and so on. And one impression I had was that Donald Trump looked very unhappy, even kind of angry. I don't remember him smiling at all during the whole time. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, looked kind of, very lively and radiant and positive. And the next morning, when I was just thinking about what I had seen and heard, this expression came to my mind, Trump the Grump. And at first I thought, oh, that's really clever and funny. And I mentioned it at the breakfast table and a few people laughed. And then afterwards I felt bad about that. It kind of reminded me of something I used to do as a child with my playmates and my siblings. We'd make fun of people, other kids or grown-ups, and come up with insulting terms for them, mimic them, and then fall all over ourselves laughing. So I thought, well, that's okay when you're a kid, but that's not nice behavior for an adult, especially someone trying to follow the Mahayana path. So I generated regret for that. And I thought as a remedy, it would be nice to contemplate the kindness of Donald Trump. And this is, very much a practice we do in our tradition. And Venerable Tsepal gave a nice BBC about this just last week. And so this meditation is based on something that the Buddha said in the Pali Canon, a sutra called the Mata Sutra in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's just a very short sutra. Mata means mother. So the Mother Sutra. So first of all, after talking about how it's just not possible to find a beginning point of our wandering in samsara, then the Buddha says, a being who has not been your mother at one time in the past is not easy to find. And then goes on to say the same about father, brother, sister, son, daughter. And anyway, so the basic idea is he can't find anyone who hasn't been our mother and father and so on and so forth. And so the Tibetans, and maybe also the Indian masters who came before them, developed this into a whole meditation on the kindness of mothers, contemplating how everyone's been our mother and what they did for us when they were our mother. And it's a beautiful meditation. I love it. And the purpose is to really open our heart to others and feel gratitude, appreciation, want to repay their kindness, and then that leads to love and compassion and bodhicitta. And so we're meant to do this starting with our mother of this life, but then extend that to everyone else and contemplate how everyone has been our mother. Everyone has been kind to us in all these various ways. And so the same goes for Donald Trump. Though Donald Trump hasn't always been in that particular form that he has this lifetime, that body, that identity, that name, that way of behaving, and so on. Though in past lives he's been in other forms, including female forms, including mothers, playing the role of mother. And so this is something we can think about, and how, at one point in time we were the baby and he was our, or rather I should say she was our mother, and all the things that she did for us as our mother, and how as her child we just saw her as the most important, precious being in the universe. We adored her and we were totally dependent on her, and so on and so forth. And so that's really helpful, to just change that perspective and not be so fixed on how that person is in this lifetime. And then that's just one way that we've received kindness from each and every living being, but there's lots of other ways as well. They've provided us with our food and clothes and shelter and so on and so forth, entertainment, books, transportation, everything, every aspect of our life. We are dependent on others. And so taking one individual person, like the person called Donald Trump in this lifetime, in past lives, he provided us with all of those things, provided us with necessities and also happiness, enjoyments. And so we can, we could go on and on and on like this, but we don't have time. We have to have an early lunch today. But yeah, it's good to contemplate that. And then there's another way that sentient beings have been kind to us, and that is providing us with the opportunities to create merit, to create virtue. Because happiness, like having a healthy body and a good life and resources and so on, that depends on virtue, good karma. And that's mostly created in relation to other people, other beings. For example, giving what is needed by others to them, that gives us a chance to create that good karma, that merit to have resources in the future. And then ethics, refraining from harming others, realizing that they don't want to suffer just like I don't, and choosing to not harm them, that is the main cause for just being born as a human being. And then patience, learning to not be annoyed and angry and retaliate even when they harm us. Working on that is also an important cause for having a fortunate rebirth and all the things we need to progress along the path. So that's another thing to contemplate, that in past lives, Donald Trump, the person who's now Donald Trump, was in that role with us, an object or a recipient of our practice for creating virtue, which now enables us to have this good life that we have and all the resources that we have. And then going forward, now in this life, he's providing us with the opportunity to also create virtue by practicing ethics, deciding I'm not going to harm with my body, speech, and mind, patience, not going to get angry, but try to have positive thoughts and feelings and love and compassion and so on and so forth. And so by working on those practices, cultivating those positive qualities, we are creating the merit, the good karma, the virtue to have good experiences in the future, fortunate lives with all the necessities we need, conditions to be able to continue our practice and follow the path. And so those are just some examples, but there's many more. For example, wisdom, perfection of wisdom is another practice that we need to cultivate to progress along the path to enlightenment. And so we can contemplate how there's no such thing as an inherently existing, independently existing Donald Trump. If we try to find such a person amongst all the things that make him up, all the molecules and atoms and tiny particles of his body, we won't find such a thing. And if we look among, well, it's harder to look into his mind, but we know just by our own mind that our mind is just a stream of different experiences arising and passing like bubbles. Nothing in the mind is permanent and fixed. So again, looking among the parts that make up the mind, we can also not find something fixed and concrete we can point to and say, that is Donald Trump. So there's a whole meditation you can do on that, and you end up realizing there's no inherently independently existing person there. Donald Trump is just what is labeled, what is named, designated independence on all those physical and mental components, none of which is Donald Trump. And so that really helps to let go of any kind of sense of a real concrete person there that you can either get angry at or afraid of or attached to or whatever. So it's a really good antidote to the afflictions. So these are just some examples of the kindness of Donald Trump, having helped us in past lives and also helping us in this lifetime and in future lives as well. We'll probably meet him again and again and have opportunities to practice and create virtue and make progress on the path. So this doesn't mean, of course, that we have to like and agree with everything that the person says and does. We can still say, no, I don't agree with that, and I think that isn't correct, but but not to identify the person with his or her words and actions and so on. Realize there's a lot more to a person than just that. And yeah, every person has good qualities and virtues and also Buddha nature. One thing I find helpful is just trying to imagine how a Buddha would see someone like Donald Trump, that for them there's no question of having unconditional love and compassion, not the slightest bit of dislike or aversion or judgmentalness, just pure unconditional love and compassion, and being completely dedicated to that being and helping him and guiding him all the way up to enlightenment. So that isn't quite how I see things now, but I would like to one day. I aspire to have that kind of view. And even just imagining that is very helpful. So I hope that, yeah, what I have said, well, it's helpful for me to talk about this, and I hope it is helpful to you as well. Thank you.